Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this special edition of the Xbox Factor podcast. This is something that we're going to periodically be doing throughout the year. I've already talked with both the Welsh Gamer and, of course, Zemi Games, my two incredible co-hosts, and we're going to see if we can do this at least once a month leading up until, of course, E3 2020, and then from there up until the release of the Xbox Series S and X, which is supposed to happen in holiday of 2020. Of course, I want to say welcome to everyone that is already here in the chat. It's great to have everybody turning out for this particular podcast. Honestly, it's one of my favorite ones to do, simply because obviously I'm a huge Xbox fan. But let's get into, of course, my co-host. Now, it is going to be a little bit of a smaller show, which in turn might be shorter than your average 90 minutes to 2 hours. I have sent the link to a few other special guests that may or may not make it. Again, we're just trying to throw some lines out there. I'm not sure if the Welsh Gamer is going to get a chance because he does have some other family responsibilities. But Zemi Games is here, and he always has a lot of stuff to talk about. Zemi, first of all, welcome to today's show. I know you're hyped to be here to talk about Xbox. Welcome back, dude.
Well, thank you so much, Boom. Yeah, I'm always excited to hop on this podcast. It's easily my favorite one. Love talking about Xbox stuff. You lined up some fantastic topics. Can't wait to get in those. But I'm super excited to be here, especially on a Tuesday. I get bonus Xbox Factor podcast, so that's always exciting.
Well, listen, it's great to have you here, and we're going to jump right into it. We already have 55 people watching, and of course, in boomstick fashion, as soon as I get my spiel out there and I get Zemi to get his response, I will be welcoming everybody in the chat personally. It's something that I enjoy doing, and I think that that it's important to welcome in everyone that takes the time to listen to these shows, because quite frankly, these shows would not exist if it wasn't for an incredible audience that enjoyed listening to the program. So, okay, let's get into the first topic. Now, obviously, I've been tweeting about this the last couple of days, and I've been very cryptic about this particular topic. And, prior to December 12th, 2019, the infamous Game Awards, the Xbox gaming community had zero ideas on what the next Xbox was going to be called or even look like. Now, both of these were shattered when Phil Spencer walked up on stage and took the gaming world by storm. Now, from that moment on, we all knew that the high-powered next-generation Xbox was being called the Xbox Series X. Now, days after the reveal, new information was making the rounds with content creators like Dealer Gaming, Randall Thor 19, and many others, including Zalker87, that had information on the two SKU known as, or the second SKU known as Lockhart, now being deemed the Xbox Series S. Now, we have heard that the Series S would be the less powerful but more affordable entry into the next generation. The rumored price point is $299.99. Now, this is what many business analysts would call a power price that the casual gaming consumers would easily gravitate to. The other attached rumor to this incredible price was the 3-month subscription card to Xbox Game Pass that has been making the rounds on the 4chan forums, Reddit, and other forms of social media. Now, while listening to the excellent Xbox 2 podcast with Randall Thor and Jez Corden of Windows Central, this was last week's episode, and I highly recommend you go and check it out. Jez said something that sparked a crazy and absolutely off-the-wall, bonkers, outrageous idea in my head on exactly what the Xbox Series S, aka Lockhart, could possibly be. Now, he said he believes the Lockhart isn't a traditional console, that he thinks it's something else. And then he went on to mention handheld, but immediately retracted the statement, saying that, in fact, it was not a handheld. And I believe him. But this is where I take this. Now, again, folks, I want people to understand something. right now, if you stay along this podcast, understand that you're going to take a trip down a lane that's a speculation town. Now, as a content creator, and Zemi will agree, sometimes you got to take risks. Sometimes you got to put yourself out there, even if you look like the biggest a-hole, if it's wrong. And that's what I'm about to do. I'm about to dive into the pool and not know if it's loaded with water. And again, you're taking the trip to speculation land. Now, here is what's been racing through my head. And again, I want you to know I'm just putting it out there, and the chances of it being correct are probably 1,000,000 to 1. Being incorrect, 1,000,000 to 1. But Marvel did very well with the What If comics, so I'm going to take a page out of their book. Now, here's my theory on Lockhart. The $2.99 price point is perfect and would attract many PlayStation owners who might want to support multiple consoles in the next generation. And if this is where my theory goes a little bit off the rails, okay, but does have some serious credence. Now, the Lockhart has been so secretive in rumor for what seems like almost a year and a half, maybe more, right? It was alive. It was dead. It's a box without a disk drive. We have no idea what it looks like. Microsoft isn't talking. But what if, and this is where it gets crazy, folks, and I'm waiting to see the chat, how crazy the chat's going to go. What if the Xbox Series S, aka Lockhart, is a dockable hybrid home console like the extremely popular Nintendo Switch? Now, wait a second. Before I get the boos, before I get the people to say, this can't happen, boom, you're a lunatic, shut down this podcast. Think about this for a second before shooting it down. Projekt xCloud is going to be the next big thing. And along with all of the mobile phones, tablets, portable PCs, and other forms of gaming on the go, Microsoft could potentially grab the casual fan base that makes the Nintendo Switch so incredibly popular and also sell incredibly well. Now, it would obviously be a digital-only home console that would allow owners to take it on the go. Now, this outrageous theory, again, would have that this console would be the low-end next-generation entry with portable purpose. The rumored $2.99, it would sell like hotcakes. And think about this. A console that could potentially come out, a next-gen console, 4 teraflops, right? It's going to be a lot smaller than the Series X. There's no doubt about it. And, I mean, listen, we have to take into account this. Projekt xCloud is here to stay. They just expanded it throughout the entire world, right? Everyone that's a part of the program could now use it. And to be honest with you, I'm currently in it, and it works fantastic. And it is an absolutely mind-boggling crazy that I can have a controller in my hand. And see, you hear the sirens? That's them coming to lock me up because this rumor is, this theory of mine is bananas. Okay? But as the sirens go by, okay, I have to once again stress that this is my theory alone. Don't hold poor Welsh or Zemi Games accountable for this craziness. But if there's some truth to what I'm saying, they could logistically have a 1-2 punch that could again potentially really knock Sony on their ass, because as we know, what we've heard, the Xbox Series X is going to retain the power crown with its 12 plus teraflops, right? That's confirmed or potentially confirmed. And if they came out and they've held this so close to their vest that no one even knows what it looks like, and they put it out there and they say that this is the handheld that we've all wanted, we can take xCloud on the go, We can have the 4 teraflop entry in system for $300 that goes underneath. Traditionally, can go underneath your TV, but when you were running out the door, you didn't have to grab your controller and snap on your phone to it. Because listen, I'm going to be honest. As great as that is, the fun factor does wear off quickly, because having the controller in your hand along with that plastic device in your phone, it starts to get a little heavy after a while. And I know that, obviously I'm being maybe a little bit full of shit here. Like, oh, how dare you, Boom? You're playing on the go. You should just shut up and take it. But just think of the possibility of Microsoft having their own gaming on the go, system that you could essentially dock to your TV and get for $300. So I've done enough talking. I don't know what even the chat. I have to read some of the what the chat has to say. But I want to know, Zemi Games. We talked pre-game, and I'm not saying that you were poo-pooing this in any way, but I'm interested to hear your theory as to why it could work, but why it potentially could not work for Microsoft.
Well, I mean, to start off with, there's not really any specific reason why I think it couldn't work. I mean, you could possibly make the argument that maybe it might, dissuade some of the casual consumers who are looking for a console and not a portable device, and maybe it might be a little bit too much for them to want to jump after, just because it just seems like it's a device doing too many different things. I mean, that's one argument that you can make. I think that is a weak argument, but that is one argument that you can make. But beyond that, I don't really think that if Xbox did take this avenue, that there really would be much of in the way of disadvantages. I mean, obviously they're trying to break into the other markets. The Asian market is a huge market that obviously they're looking towards, with all the rumors about them acquiring Japanese studios, with just everything that they have been doing. For me personally, I don't really think it. I don't know. There's just something about it I don't really like. I don't really. It just doesn't really sound like it's going to happen, because I think Xbox's approach, and we were talking about this before the show, is they're adopting a lot of PC like ideology, and I think that with what they've done in the past, I think the Lockhart is more than likely going to be that digital only, nose disk drive, lesser powerful console. That we've all previously imagined it to be. I think that that's probably what it's going to be. But if they did take this hybrid, portable console, dockable, console approach, I don't think it would be this, in any way a disadvantage to them. In some ways, it would work towards them. I don't really see how necessary it might be, as people that are looking to jump into mobile gaming. Most people have a smartphone, have a tablet, have, and if they don't have that, I'm sure they have multiple other devices that Xbox will eventually come to support for their xCloud. And so for that reason, I just don't really see the purpose. I guess for your consumer looking to have a cheaper console that, and just have the added benefit that they can take it on the go, that's really who they're marketing to. But I think for people that are only going to be interested in the mobile gaming factor, I think a lot of them would be more likely just to choose to adopt xCloud on their mobile devices or whatever. But regardless, I think it will definitely, if they did take the approach, push into the Asian market more, have more competition with the Nintendo Switch. And I think that a lot of Japanese and Korean, gamers might see the advertisements and might be a little bit more interested in jumping onto that, because it's something that is easier to relate to, as as xCloud is something brand new that has really almost never been done before. I mean, it's been done a little bit on PC gaming. The idea of it has somewhat been done on PC gaming, but it's never been done on like a smartphone or something. So it might do really, really well in the Japanese market, and it might break through and cause Xbox to have a lot more success. But I just don't really see the whole purpose of it. It won't hurt them. I mean, if anything, it will help them. But I don't really see the purpose, because, like I said, everyone has a smartphone. Everyone has you know, some device that they could use xCloud on. And I think if Xbox did make this a portable hybrid console, the more money they spend on making it portable and hybrid and dockable and all that different stuff is less money that they can spend on, making it, a more powerful console. If they spend, an extra $50 to make sure that it's a portable console, that's $50 less that they can spend on a hard drive or on a better CPU or on a better GPU. You know what I mean? So for that point of view, I would kind of prefer it not to be, but either way, I don't think it's going to hurt Xbox.
I mean, listen, it is a wild theory. And of course, there's no credence. There's no evidence. I haven't heard anything on, obviously, the only reason why I decided to bring it up in conversation was because, obviously, it sparked something in my mind when I heard Jez Corden say that he thinks it's something different, that he doesn't believe that it's a traditional console. Now, he did, of course, say handheld, but then he immediately retracted it, saying that it wasn't. So I understand that this isn't his theory that it is that it's a portable. This is completely mine on my own. I just think that with the it's a market that's untapped. It's a market that has not seen. At least Microsoft has not attempted to be a part of, right? There's been so many theories. There's been rumors. We've heard from the community that people would be asking for, some sort of an Xbox handheld, and they're going to get that in the form of Project xCloud, which is apparently going to be baked right into, Ultimate Game Pass, and you're not going to have to pay anything extra for that service. You, of course, are a subscriber, which makes sense, and it's going to give you access to what games that you have available on your console, and that's going to be great. But at the same time, like I said, being someone who has played, who's currently playing Project xCloud, having the controller in your hand along with the phone there's a couple of smaller issues that I have with it. First of all, you have to be able to carry your controller with you on top of your cell phone, which, again, your cell phone is with everyone has a cell phone. It's always in your back pocket. It's always clipped to your belt, whatever. But to have your actual controller along with you, it would potentially, there's potential for loss. You lose the control. You leave it at the doctor's office when you have to answer your phone. It drops, it breaks. You leave it in your car, someone breaks in and steals it. I mean, this carrying the controller around, again, big problem. World breaking news, boom, you have to carry a controller. I mean, I get it. But I'm just saying that, again, this is off the wall bonkers, and there's no credence to it. But what if it was true that there was an actual first party design branded Xbox dockable handheld for the mere price of $300? You can get to play. You get into next generation with a new CPU and a new GPU, and then the bonus X factor, if you will, would be that you could take it on the go and use xCloud. And again, I understand that it's not going to happen, but I'm just interested, and obviously we don't have a lot of people in the panel today. It's just me and Zemi, which is fine. Obviously we would love to have other people jump on and get their opinion, but I'm interested to hear what the chat actually has to say. And, normally I don't do the 1 and 2, and obviously I'm going to do that now because it makes it simple. But what if you would be interested in a $299 portable dockable unit in the form of the Lockhart or the Xbox Series X, give a 1. And if you would not be interested, put a 2 in there. Now, I'm going to say this. If this did come to fruition in any way, that would cause me to double dip, because I would buy an X and an S at launch day. No questions asked. And why could I do that? Because, well, for me, I have Game Pass. I have Game Pass paid up until the end of 2022, so I don't have to buy any first party games. And that's the ticket right there. It would open up the possibility of people to double dip. I'm going to bring it back to you.
Well, actually, I have a question for you.
Sure.
So like you were talking about before, having to use your controller with your smartphone, but I believe it was a few months back. I think we had a story. I don't remember if we actually talked about it on the podcast or not, but I think it was there was a controller company that, and I think it was like maybe a rumor or something, but they were looking to develop like an actual attachment that you would plug into your, attach to your controller, that would almost make it be like a switch, if you will, right? So you wouldn't have to use your actual Xbox controller. You could use the adapter thing. If they came out with one of those adapters for your smartphone where you could easily and more conveniently play on your smartphone, would you buy the Lockhart, above just playing on your mobile device?
I would probably buy the Lockhart simply because it's the first party developed Microsoft item. And the reason why I say that is this: Razer had put out something. What the hell is it called? My wife bought it for me for Christmas, and the way that I thought it was that it stretched apart to fit any phone, right? And unfortunately, I guess I didn't read the fine print. What it wound up being is it was like the Nintendo Switch, where the controllers slid onto a plastic phone base where you put your phone into. And I have this. I used to have a Note 8. Now I upgraded to the Samsung, the S10. Right, that's what my wife and I have. And it came with 3 cases, and none of the cases supported the S10, and they didn't have a case for the S10. So I wound up having to send it back. And obviously I'm assuming it would have worked just fine because it was just like a switch, except it didn't pull apart like I thought it did. It was the controller aspect, just like the Nintendo Switch. They slid onto this plastic phone case that was supposed to house the phone, and unfortunately it didn't have the phone that I have. They didn't have a case for, which kind of ruined it for me. So I actually had to send it back. For me personally, if there was a $300 console that gave me the ability to take the xCloud on the go, and because that's really what this would be for. It would not be. I mean, I would buy both consoles, but the reason on the second purchase for the S or the Lockhart would simply be the ability to take my Xbox on the go and have a case for it. And if I was going to go on a plane, or I was going to the doctor's office, or while I was on the exercise bike at the gym, I could logistically be playing games. And I know it sounds ridiculous, right? It almost sounds like I'm gonna do 2 miles on the elliptical. So what am I going to do for 2 hours? Watch ESPN? Boring. I'd rather, or listen to music. Okay, great. But if you're telling me that I could be on the elliptical and I'm going to do a 2 mile stint and I can just play Gears of War 5 or whatever on there, well, I just hold that and I just walk like a boob, I'm all in. I'm just saying that it's probably not going to happen. And this topic is going to be, people are going to be laughing at me. I can't wait to see the comments. But again, as a content creator, sometimes you got to put yourself out there. Sometimes you're right. Most of the time you're wrong. And you know what? I'm perfectly okay with that. Anything that you would like to add to this before we move on to the next topic, Sammy?
No, not really. I mean, did you want to still ask me what you were going to ask me? Or did you forget it?
I think I forgot it. I'm sorry.
It's no worries.
I'm trying to think. Okay, well, listen, I'll put it to this way. I'm going to say this in closing of this particular topic. It's an interesting theory simply because Microsoft has never done this before, right? It would be an arena that they would be stepping into that they have never had the idea of jumping into. Now, whether or not this comes to fruition, I just want to close out with this. Microsoft, the old Microsoft, the one that lost the last generation or the current generation that we're in, that Microsoft is gone. This is a much different, more focused, more, they seem to have more attitude and a swagger. And they are doing things that are surprising fans. And they've been doing this up until, I mean, this change in ideology came, and I keep hearkening back to it because it is an important turning point in the company. Pre-E3 2018, it didn't look good for Microsoft. It didn't look good for their fans, and it didn't look good for the brand. Post E3 2018, with the addition of the 4 studios that they purchased and the quadruple A that they developed in-house, along with everything that they've done since then, folks, like I said, you don't have to wave the emerald green flag if you don't want to, but you have to give credit where credit is due. And Microsoft is making new and bold moves. And this could be one of those bold moves. I mean, again, we have no idea. Microsoft doesn't even talk about Lockhart. They won't even mention it, right? Where is all this information coming from? Well, I mean, Dealer's been on our show before, right? He talked about it. He says he knows people, that he has inside information. Randall Thor, who has been on a guest on this very program along with Dealer, said the same thing, that they have inside sources that they've spoken to, that Lockhart does in fact exist. But why isn't Microsoft talking about it? Why are they so secretive about Lockhart? Because there's something there. Now, whether it's going to be the hybrid dockable console that I hope and pray that it is, or it's just going to be your traditional under-the-box unit that's a little less powerful than the Series X, or it's going to be a lot less powerful than it, but it's going to be slightly more powerful than the current Xbox One X. And maybe it's just the diskless system that's going to sit there for $300 and attract the casual market, which it probably is going to be that. But what if it's something more? So that's why I kind of wanted to bring up this particular topic. Again, silly, maybe, but I do think that there's some credence to it. But I want to move on to another, and again, we have not left speculation town, folks. Just bear with us, because the second topic is also one of those speculative topics that I talked about. Again, cryptically, because, obviously I kind of wanted to write this and see where this went. And I think Zemi is very interested to be talking about this one. Now, obviously, since E3 2018, we know for an absolute fact that Microsoft currently has the marketing deal with CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk 2077. And this is a big deal, and something that I think everyone on this panel, and I will say this, without a doubt, everybody in this chat has wanted from Microsoft for years. Having these marketing deals for huge titles is super important. And this particular title is probably going to close out this generation as probably one of the finest made multi-plat releases in this entire generation. And I think from what we've seen already, we can say that boldly without sounding like a maniac. Now, the Power Crown isn't just a title that will drive console sales. It's something that says that has tremendous cause and effect. And we saw that with the PlayStation brand this entire generation, right? They were for many, many years the more powerful console compared to, of course, the Xbox One. And they ran with that Power Crown. They ran with that price crown. And obviously, we have to look back to 2017. Phil Spencer did something never before done with the Xbox, and that was Xbox Game Pass. In fact, most of the gaming industry, if you remember, folks, laughed and scoffed at Microsoft, touting that this new and ambitious program would fail. And this is the word of the day. And I'm not going to mention any other podcasters that said this, but you know who I'm talking about. If I recall correctly, this move would devalue the Xbox, its brand, its games, and everything about the actual the medium we know as the Xbox brand. Well, it's safe to say that the IGNs, the Kotakus, the GameSpots, the mainstream media, and a lot of these content creators that built their homes on this shaky ground were completely wrong. In fact, I would say that they were dead wrong. And Xbox Game Pass has become the most profitable gaming service in recent memory. Now, before I continue, I have to thank, before I lose them here, first of all, Victor Alistine with the outstanding and very generous $2 super chat. He says, why not just make the Surface phone the Lockhart? Dude, I mean, here's the thing. I'll touch on that for a second. I don't want them to do anything with phones, man. If this is going to be some sort of a hybrid, make it a hybrid. Make it like the Switch. Make it a more powerful Switch. Just stay away from the phones, because Windows phones, from what I understand, were very cool. Everyone enjoyed them, but they failed in that market, and I don't want to see them return to that, to be honest with you. And we have another one that just came, another super chat just came in, and let me scroll to it. Al Hogan, first of all, welcome, my friend, and of course, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. He says this. First of all, he drops a $5 super chat, and thank you for your generosity, my friend. He says this. I think you're onto something, Boom. Did you see the new Alienware handheld a device that Dell showed off at CES could be to compete with the Xbox? Now, that, my friend, is something I did see, and that is something I did not take into account while writing this, because I said, wow, the Alienware would be dope to own so I can play Project xCloud on it. Again, I didn't even think about that, so good on you for bringing that up. But getting back to this particular topic, now on December 12th, once again, and I'm going to keep bringing it up. A lot of people like to say, well, you bring up 2013 all the time, Boom, and that's when we weren't doing so well. So I'm going to be that asshole that brings up December 12th, when we did something fantastic and great. But something else happened on December 12th. Besides Microsoft and Kickstand Phil getting out there and letting it all hang out for the world to see, CNN Gaming reported that Xbox South Africa had a bit of an operational hiccup. They posted an advertisement for Xbox Game Pass showing some games that Microsoft intended to add to the service. This, of course, was immediately taken down, but the list of games had some pretty surprising entries. Now, the major release listed was, of course, CD Projekt Red's upcoming potential Game of the Year 2020, Cyberpunk 2077. And, of course, like expected, the internet went bonkers, and for good reason. Now, it's undoubtedly one of the biggest releases of this year and is shaping up to be one of the last great releases in this generation. Now, again, here is my outrageous theory. We know for an absolute fact that Cyberpunk 2077 has been officially delayed till September 2020. And that's, I know that Zemi was heartbroken over that, and most people were. In fact, I was as well, because we thought that we were going to get this game a lot sooner. Now we have to wait till almost the end of the year. It just so happens that there's a pretty great chance the Xbox Series X could release in September, but more than likely it's going to be in November, like traditionally Microsoft has done in the past. Now, here's another what if, that if some of you may have talked about, or we might have talked about it in other shows, but we're going to really get into it now. How important could this potentially be for the sales of the Xbox Series S and X if this game releases like it's supposed to in September, and they have 60 days of sales? Now, Zemi and I were talking pregame, and I think that we both come to the agreement that when this game comes out across multiple platforms, meaning PC, the PlayStation 4, and of course the Xbox One X and S, this is going to sell 5 million copies in 60 days. It might sell 5 million copies in a week for all I know. If I was a betting kind of a guy, and I love numbers and I enjoy talking about the numbers, I'm going to say that there's a good chance that this could reach, I don't know, 7 or 8 million copies sold in 60 days. And again, hypothetically, just imagine if because Microsoft has the marketing rights to this game, and they can market it any way that they want, and they're going to market it to the best of their ability. You know that the Xbox Series X is going to play the best. Okay. Some people may say, "Well, boom, that's an assumption because we don't know the power specs." But from what we've heard, the Series X is going to be more powerful. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that it's going to be the best place to play, like it's currently right now in all third-party games. Okay, unless of course you have a lazy developer, kind of like Gearbox, what they did with Borderlands 3. That was a piss poor attempt on just releasing the PlayStation version across the board, which kind of sucks for people who have the X. But I don't think that CD Projekt Red is going to do that because they are professionals, paraprofessionals, I might add. And they're going to want that game to look best everywhere. Everywhere it could look the best. Now, of course, if you have a monster rig like a dealer or like a mooch, they have monster rigs. A good friend of the show, Enrique from BRAP, has a monster rig. They're probably going to play Cyberpunk on there, and it's going to be glorious. But on the Series X, it's out of the home consoles, it's going to play best. Could you imagine in your opening advertisement for your new console that not only in Xbox Game Pass could you potentially be getting a new Forza, Gears Tactics, Halo Infinite, whatever else that they haven't shown us, the rumored Perfect Dark that just came out in the Reddit rumor, and P.S. by the way, in there as well as Cyberpunk 2077. Do you understand the selling point of that kind of AAA third-party game being in there? Now, obviously, Microsoft would have to pay some serious dollars to have that happen. But with that said, if there was a 60-day removal from launch to launch, meaning that in September, you get Cyberpunk. September to November, that's 2 months, that's 60 days. They sell 8 to 9 million copies across PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One, right? And then the November games that are going to be going into Xbox Game Pass, that list that comes out, that's going to be all launch games, could include Cyberpunk 2077. There are a lot of people that might just buy an Xbox simply because of that, and because they have that ability to put a big game in there and really do something unprecedented during a launch. Now, Zemi, I've been talking forever. I'm parched. I need a drink. But I also want to get your opinion on this. What do you think of this second outrageous theory of mine?
Well, I guess to start off, let me just say that I don't think the idea that Cyberpunk 2077 coming to Game Pass is even a question. I think the real question is, when is Cyberpunk 2077 going to come to Game Pass? And I don't 100% know. I think it would be huge for the Xbox players if we did see this come to Game Pass, within 60 days of its initial launch. But at the same time, we don't know what was in that marketing contract. We don't know what is in the contracts with CD Projekt Red and Xbox. CD Projekt Red might have had it in contract that their game would go to Game Pass 6 months after release. Well, they pushed back their release date. I would imagine probably just because they needed more time on the game. If I'm not mistaken, they previously did that with The Witcher 3.
That's
so
correct.
That could potentially push back the release date of that game coming to Game Pass for an additional 6 months, possibly. I don't know how the contracts work and all this different stuff, but I mean, that is one potential outcome. But then again, it could release, it could release day and date on Game Pass. It could release 60 days on Game Pass. And I think that would be huge news. I don't think that would be a huge console seller. I don't think it's going to bring a ton of PlayStation people over the Xbox. And the reason I say that is because, just thinking about it, a lot of people are short-term thinkers, right? We think in short term, and Cyberpunk, is still a third-party game that will be available on the PlayStation. You'll have to pay $60, but it will still be available. And I think a lot of people aren't going to be looking for the long term of what Game Pass will offer them. I think rather they're going to be looking at the short term. They're going to say, well, Cyberpunk's on there, that kind of sucks. I guess I'll have to pay $60, right? But I think what's going to make a lot of people really, really happy is the Xbox players, right? Because the same way I kind of think of Netflix, like you'll be scrolling through Netflix, kind of already watched everything that you wanted to watch, and you're just you're sitting here thinking, why am I paying 12 months, you're $12 a month for this? And then all of a sudden Cyberpunk comes flying out, right? It gives people more reason to subscribe to Game Pass. It gives Xbox users, PC users more reasons to subscribe to Game Pass. And it also ensures that the people who are already subscribed and who have been subscribed are happy with the subscription and have even more reason to stay subscribed. And I think that's going to be I think that's a lot stronger of I guess a pro than it could possibly bring over PlayStation players. I mean, obviously I think some PlayStation players will quite possibly come over because of Game Pass, but I don't think it's going to see as big of an impact as it will for people who are already subscribed to the service, or Xbox players that are already on the platform looking for that big reason to subscribe if they haven't already. But regardless, it would be a huge power move. It would definitely cost Xbox a lot of money, and I just part of me really hopes that they announce it before. Before Cyberpunk 2077 comes out, because I just don't know if I'll be able to hold off. I would really love to hold off, get my brand new Series X, and find out that game's on Game Pass, or just even still just hold off. But if I knew for a fact it was coming to Game Pass 60 days after its release, and I could play it on my Series X, that would just help me hold off from the game. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to hold off. That game looks way too good.
I mean, listen, here's the thing. I don't think that they would announce it before, simply because
it would hurt the sales.
It would hurt sales because people would be like, you know what, I'm just going to wait. And it's a third-party title. Microsoft, there would have to be a lot of zeros on that check. Yeah. And I think that, again, not day and date to release, because there was a report. We talked about it on this show that there was a report that they could potentially do a day and date release. And then, of course, we heard of the delay. And the delay into September kind of made me think that, 60 days would be enough for CD Projekt Red to sell 8, 9, 10 million copies. Again, this isn't a no-name game. The world is awaiting this game, and it's launching on 3 platforms. Well, of course, I think that it's probably going to sell the most, believe it or not, probably on PC. Because, again, the PC Master Race, this is a game that they've been waiting for. I'm sure that they have been anticipating the specs, and all of the people that hold these monster rigs as their go-to gaming platforms are going to want to take this bad boy on a spin. So I think that even though there's going to be tremendous sales on the consoles, undoubtedly it's going to be, it could be 2, could be 3, could be 4 per console for all I know. And because the Xbox has half the installed base of the PlayStation could actually have more sales versus Xbox, simply because of the 106 million, to 47, 50, let's just be generous and say 50 million consoles out there. So it's a 2-to-1. So they, by all rights, should have more sales, simply because there are a lot of casual gamers that are going to be looking for the next big thing. This is going to be the next big thing. But I still think that the PC is going to be where it's at in regards to sales. Real quick, I have to thank Titan2793 with the $5 super chat. He says, boom, from your mouth to Microsoft's ears, day and date on Cyberpunk Game Pass would be amazing. Sony will change and do the same thing sooner. I mean, listen, again, this is an Xbox show. And I've said this publicly. I've said it privately. I've said it on socially. I am awaiting the day that Sony has all of their first-party games in a Game Pass-esque service. Currently, I don't like PS Now. I think that the service is lacking severely, in my opinion. I think that, the 3-month expiration date that they have on their first-party games is a poor service to the fans. Even though $60 for the year is good, I still think that it's nowhere near the service that I want it to be. And I think that you get more bang for your buck with the $15 a month for the Ultimate Game Pass, because you are getting Xbox Live. You are going to get Project X Cloud. And of course, you're getting 200 plus games, all of which include first party bangers day and date. This is something that Sony needs to adopt. This is something I'm praying and hoping that Nintendo adopts. Because I buy a lot of, listen, when you support multiple consoles, this hobby gets expensive. And if I can pay, I don't know, even if you told me I had to pay $45 a month, let's just say, for instance, it was $15 across the board. And I know we're kind of taking this off in another direction, but someone asked it. I want to address it. Even if I was paying $45 a month for services, just on those three, do you understand, as a person that supports 3 active consoles, how much money overall you would save yearly, especially when you look at the first party titles that that all 3 launch? I mean, Sony's good for like, I don't know what, 4, 5, 6 maybe, right? Nintendo's their first party. They're good for at least a dozen. And Microsoft this year in 2020 is going to have 12. And that's what we know of. So look at all that money you would be saving if everyone had a gaming service. So that's a great question. And once again, thank you for the super chat, dude. I really appreciate it. But more importantly, I appreciate you being here. We have over 250 people watching, which is crazy, considering that this was a spur of the moment thing that had literally no advertisement. But I mean, listen, I'm going to say this. This is like Zemi was saying, is a big deal, and it would be. I don't know, Zemi. I want you to kind of expand on this. Do you agree that this would kind of be the stake in the ground for the launch of the next console if this big AAA, some would call it a quadruple A developed title, would be in Game Pass at launch?
I think it would be a huge wake-up call to a lot of people. Because obviously, we sit here, all day, every day, looking at Xbox, looking at the things that they do. A lot of casual consumers don't really, keep track of everything that Xbox does. But to see that high of a tier game enter into Game Pass, whether it's day and date, whether it's 60 days after, whether it's 3 months after, regardless of like the time frame, is a huge win. And we know CD Projekt Red already is willing to put their games into Game Pass because The Witcher is there. So I think it would be a huge wake up call to a lot of the people that still for some reason haven't realized that Xbox is here and they're finally playing the game the way that they need to play the game. But another thing I also wanted to touch on as well before we change topics is, the idea that CD Projekt Red could potentially put Cyberpunk into Game Pass day and date isn't really unprecedented. And the reason I say that is because, and I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, a PC game developer called Paradox. They make a bunch of grand strategy games, which I'm a huge fan of. They released a game called Imperator Rome, and I'm not sure when that game released, but very close to the release date, or possibly on the release date of that game, it was available in Game Pass for PC. And in a later article where one of the developers was talking about it, he was talking about how great Game Pass is for them because they get paid a certain dollar amount, a certain monetary amount per every hour played of that game. So, and that's a big reason why they put multiple of their games, like a lot of their games, into Game Pass, is probably because they're making a lot of money off of it. So outside what Xbox could potentially pay CD Projekt Red to get this game, they're still going to make a lot of money just off of people playing, because from what it sounds like to me, from looking at what Paradox said in that interview, they get paid per amount of hours that the game gets played. And we know that CD Projekt Red makes really big games. So it kind of makes sense for them to want to throw it into Game Pass.
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. It makes sense because they would get a huge chunk of money up front, millions upon millions of dollars up front, and then they would be back ended on this deal with with the potential of how many hours. I mean, think about this, folks. I mean, look, if you are into open world action futuristic RPGs, I'm going to say that someone that put in 200 to 300 hours in The Witcher 3 could easily double that in the size and scope that Cyberpunk is apparently going to be. Right? We've heard rumors that it's 3 times the size of The Witcher. Now, again, I only put maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 hours into The Witcher.
Boo.
And yeah, I know I'm a fraud. I definitely got. If I had the ability to add gifts here, I'd boo myself. It's a game that I probably should. It's a game that I enjoy. That type of game. I don't know why. I just think that it was a lot of it had to do with the how complex making the potions were. Like I just thought it was just over the top too much. You had to put the solvent on the sword to fight this beast, and if you didn't get it right, you wouldn't do damage. And I'm like, there's just too much out there to play. This is a great game. I'm not taking anything away from it. It's just not for me. Again, maybe I'm a Neanderthal. Maybe I just want action, hack and slash. But whatever. What can I say? It's just not for me. But real quick, I have to thank Z Black Rider for being here. He drops a $2 super chat. He says CD Projekt Red gave you the release date for the series. Oh, this is interesting. He says CD Projekt Red gave you the release date for the Xbox Series S. Well, that would be interesting if they released it prior to the big one out there. That would actually be pretty interesting. But you know what? I mean, listen. Again, this has been a lot of fun. Where we are, we're almost an hour into the show. This was a bit of an unprecedented show. We're going to try and do this at least once a week. I wanted to talk about these 2 theories. And there's one other one that I was a little... I'm going to bring up the title. The one thing I don't like to do for my shows is bring in the ugly side of gaming journalism. Because it's an objective opinion. Like I don't really hold any particular journalists into highlight anymore. Like for instance, Ryan McCaffrey. For instance, I used to be a big fan of his, and I don't listen to him anymore. I've completely walked away from IGN. I've completely walked away from the Kotakus. I used to be a big fan of Giant Bomb, both of their shows. I walked away from them. I don't like mainstream media because I understand it's a business. And because I produce these shows from a fan's point of view, being like one of you guys and gals in the chat, I put what I think you would be interested in listening to because I would be interested in listening to. Whereas, this is, obviously IGN has millions of people that subscribed to their YouTube channel and then pay, because I used to be one of those people that pay to keep the lights on, right? I used to pay them $30 a year because I wanted to help out. I enjoyed their stuff. And then, like many of today's journalists, they decided to, that clicks are more important. Well, the particular story that I want to talk about, and obviously you see, first of all, Jason Schreier of Kotaku. I'm going to tell you this right now. He has me blocked on Twitter. Not a surprise because I called him a pompous ass because he said something I thought was stupid, and he immediately blocked me, and that's fine. Listen, that's okay. I don't like him as a journalist. I think that what he does is interesting. I've given him credit for some of the bigger stories that he's broken, but behind the scenes, I've heard that some of the ways he does this is not really cool. Z Black Rider said as an additional $3 super chat, and he says, "Oops, here's the rest." Listen, dude, you don't got to give me a dime. The fact that you're here in the chat is more than enough for me. We have almost 300 people, 271 people watching, which is fantastic. So thank you for being here. But I want to get back to this particular topic. And again, I don't normally like to bring up this kind of shenanigans simply because, well, again, it's very subjective, and this is the dark side of the medium that we enjoy. This is how the story is going to go. Apparently, the PlayStation 5 will reportedly have more launch exclusives, and a key on that word, exclusives, than the Xbox Series X. And it appears that this is obviously Xbox fake news, and it's already starting thanks to Kotaku's resident pompous ass, Jason Schreier. And I can say that because I don't give a fuck if this gets back to him or not. I don't care. I don't know Jason anything. Now, in a story that I pulled from comicbook.com, they're reporting that during a recent podcast that Schreier is a part of, it's a weekly show. This is what he had to say on the matter of the PlayStation 5 having, quote unquote, more exclusives at launch than the Xbox Series X. And it's his tone, both in the article and in the podcast, that clearly shows his bias towards the Microsoft brand and why I consider him a snake oil salesman looking for attention with his clickbait topics at the helm. This is what he had to say. "I've heard some of the PlayStation 5 launch titles," said Schreier. "I won't say them yet, as I probably will want to do some sort of report on that stuff for the future, but those will be PS5 only." Schreier continued, talking about exclusives on the Xbox Series X. "I haven't heard anything about first-party Xbox games, but I'm sure their stuff is going to be as usual on as much as possible." I guess what he's implying, and again, this is my opinion, he's implying that they're going to have a Forza, they're going to have a Halo, and the potential for a Gears game being Gears Tactics, somehow or another having the three pillars that hold up the Xbox brand as the launch games for your new console, somehow a bad thing, but whatever. Okay. He goes on to say, actually, they've already said that Halo Infinite is going to be cross-gen, so Microsoft, I'm sure, will have a lot less, will be a lot less about exclusives. Now, as you may know, in terms of Xbox Series X only exclusives, Microsoft won't have any until late 2021. Not only will all of their games be releasing on PC during this time, but the Xbox One as well. And of course, they bring up the Matt Booty interview that was, of course, twisted and turned by the big gaming media last week, claiming that the PlayStation 5's advantage over the Series X was its exclusives that the Series X was not going to have due to inclusion, obviously not leaving their fans behind. So, of course, I have to go to my panel, and I'll go to Zemi on this. First of all, Zemi, I'm going to say this. I think that what's unbelievable is that in the opening to the comicbook.com's article, which I'll provide in the link, they cited Schreier as one of the industry's most trusted sources. Well, obviously, I find him to be very slimy and completely one-sided. But his so-called journalism skills is where I question it. And obviously, his tone towards the Xbox brand. Now, I don't know what happened where he has such a distaste for the Xbox. I think what makes it worse with Jason Schreier is that he has no problem calling out the Xbox community on almost a regular basis, somehow that we are as Xbox gamers less important than the PlayStation gamers. Which I think we're all gamers, and I don't think anyone is one community is better than the other. I think that we're just all gamers. He obviously doesn't seem to think that. And the fact that he admits he hasn't heard anything and Zemi, he's making a very inflated opinion about Microsoft plans is another act of reckless journalism. How do you say that in the same sentence that, oh, it's probably going to be what Microsoft is known for, but I haven't heard anything? Well, how do you make that assumption unless you have a distaste for the brand? So my question to you is in fact this reckless journalism, and what is he playing at?
Well, I guess because this story is different from the story we had last Thursday, but it's also very, very similar in the same way, talking about, the PS5 exclusives versus the Xbox Series X exclusives. And like I said during that last podcast, what he's saying isn't a lie. Right? He's not lying in the least bit. PlayStation will have more exclusive games for the PS5 than, solely for the PS5 than Xbox will for the Xbox Series X. But that's very misleading in the sense that sounds like Xbox won't have that many exclusives when they will actually probably have more exclusives than Sony will, but those exclusives will be available on multiple Xbox platforms. And you know what I mean? So it's very misleading. And ultimately, whenever you boil it down, he does have a bias. Maybe his bias is that he prefers Sony. He just truly prefers Sony, and he wants to help them succeed and win, quote unquote, win the next, console generation. But then again, maybe his bias is, completely professional in the sense that he understands that, the PlayStation community is bigger. There are more PlayStation hardcore fans out there than Xbox ones. So if he gets on, a stage and starts talking about how Xbox is impressing him, that's not going to get the same reaction as if he completely tried to destroy Xbox and just, catered to the Sony audience. And that's what I think a lot of it boils down to, is that for him, it's the popular thing to hate Xbox, right? That's still the popular thing. Even going into this generation, there's more people on Sony's side than Xbox side, right? And I think from that point of view, it's just him, playing business, right? Right. Him doing what's going to get him the most clicks, what's going to cause the less backfire for him personally. And I think that's his main objective. I mean, it's, he's not lying, but he is misleading the audience. And, you kind of opened up this topic. Like, I don't really like talking about, kind of drama stuff like that. And I agree with you. It's really awful. I hate talking about drama. I don't like drama. I don't like confrontation. Right. But I think it's also important to talk about this story because there are people who are going to hear what he says, and they're, like casual consumers, whoever it may be, they're not going to do the research. They're not going to figure out that, what he's saying is misleading. And so for us to actually talk about it on this podcast, even if there's just one person who doesn't really understand what's going on, and if they, listen to this podcast, they walk away with an honest, true opinion of what's going on, then it's worth talking about this topic, right? But I think a lot of it just boils down to his biases and wanting to take the popular approach, and it doesn't make it right. I mean, it's very misleading. It's very unprofessional. It's very, dark and dirty journalism. And at the end of the day, his main goal, regardless of, I guess if he knows this or not, but what he's mainly doing here is just trying to devalue the Xbox brand that, in my opinion, hasn't really done anything wrong since 2013.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I think what you're saying is fantastic. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, again, I don't understand where he, what's his motive? I mean, obviously, I'm not going to be ridiculous and say, "Oh, PlayStation is paying him, folks. That's what it is, and he's making money on the back end." That's.
But he's making money. But he is making money because
he is making money.
More people are going to click on those stories because there's more PlayStation fans out there, right?
Yes.
Less Xbox people are going to click on that because they don't. He is making money. You know what I mean? He's raising, how many people know his name. The more people that know his name, the more people that agree with him, the more people that follow him, the more Twitter followers he gets, the more money he's going to get whenever he sells his next book. He is making money off of it. I mean, and I think that at the end of the day, that's really a big reason why he's doing what he's doing. It's because it's the popular thing. It's what's going to make people like him, and that's going to help him going into the future. Well, maybe not the future that we're all heading into, but the future that he thinks is going to happen.
I mean, listen, I agree with you. And I think I agree 100% of everything that you had to say, simply because, again, yeah, he is making money. He is downplaying the Xbox brand. He has been banging the negativity towards Xbox for weeks now. This isn't something new. I just chose this particular topic to kind of just to talk about it, because I feel that if again, my show is tiny, man. It's not even a blip on the map, but people enjoy it and people appreciate the honesty that comes along with this show. It's one of the staples that I built this this show on, was integrity, was honesty. You obviously know I don't do clickbait shit, right? There's no clickbait titles. If it's in the title, we talk about it. I explain why we're talking about it. I think I'm very thought-provoking with the topics that I write, because, again, I look at it from a fan's point of view of what I would enjoy listening to. And listen, I understand that even though I'm a content creator, I still listen to a lot of shows. And, I enjoy it. I truly do. But, again, I didn't want to spend too much time on this.
Oh, can I say something real quick?
Please, by all means.
Somebody, I think Kenny said, wow, Xbox hasn't done anything wrong since 2013. Head in the sand. You are right. Thanks you so much for calling me out. I'm sure Xbox has done some questionable things since 2013. I probably shouldn't have said that. But what I'm trying to say more than anything is they haven't done something that warrants this amount of criticism necessarily that is getting dispensed to them, and how the big media treats, it has been treating Xbox a lot of the times, for the majority of the times, has been unwarranted. And one of the very last times, in my opinion, that I think that a lot of the criticism that they were getting was very much warranted was 2013. But you are right. Xbox has done some things since 2013 that are questionable. No company is perfect.
Well,
I just wanted to fact check.
No. I mean, I'm glad.
He called me out, and he was right.
Yeah, I mean, listen. First of all, there's no reason to call out. I mean, asking a question as to, again, I don't think you. I mean, it might have been a tad rude, which was claiming that your head is in the sand. And even though if you've been listening to this show enough, I think that you can understand that we do have valuable opinions. That's why people continue to tune back in, because obviously, if we were talking rubbish, no one would tune in. They're like, these guys are a bunch of assholes. Let's why waste my time? So I appreciate the comment, and I'm glad, Zemi, that you addressed it. And I just want to close out this particular topic. Now, this is where I was going to end the show. Now we're an hour and 7 minutes in, and something that I was looking at, because sometimes, obviously, because I write a lot, I have to send myself notes. Folks, I'm going to be 50 years old, and as you get older, the mind starts to go a little bit, because my mind is always, on a million different things. And something came across my my YouTube feed, thanks to Zolker87. Obviously, Zolker is a part of the RDX podcast, which is going to be live tonight at 8 p.m. So it's a program I listen to religiously. I love everybody on that show. I think they're all like 100 legit. Everyone there has a place there. I'm good friends with Dealer. And many of the folks on there. Obviously, I'm going to bring up a picture right now that I'll show the world. This is from last year's Xbox conference. Look, there's Boomstick right in the middle, right there. If you're looking at the picture, there's me there with the mohawk. I'm sitting next to King, and right next to me on my right is Colt Eastwood. If you want to see what Colt Eastwood looks like in real life, there he is on my right. And behind Colt is Jez Gordon, and on the left here is Tim Dog, the famous Tim Dog. And I'm hoping to get in this year and interact with all of these fine community members. Actually, for me personally, it was one of the, as great as E3 was, being there and experiencing all of these wonders that I've always only dreamed of. the community interaction, the fact that I got to meet so many people that I actually podcasted with that never met in real life was the definite fun factor of E3 for me. And I'm looking forward to rekindling that this year. But thanks to Zolker, he did a video, and I will add it to the show notes after the show regarding Zeni-Max. Now, if you don't know who Zeni-Max is a publisher, and they have some big names in their roster of games that they publish. And Zeni-Max is the parent company for games like Doom, games like Castle Wolfenstein, one of your personal favorites, Elder Scrolls, is a part of that.
Oh yeah.
The Fallout, the Fallout series is a part of that. And there's been talk. We've heard that Zeni-Max could potentially get purchased. And then, of course, I think it was maybe last week, or it might have been the week before, the leading that charge was, of course, Sony was going to be the one to go out and buy this billion-dollar company. And like I said, I mean, I don't think it's possible financially for the company right now. I just don't think that they have the market funds to make that kind of investment, because it's going to be expensive. But during one of the Xbox IGN shows, I believe it's called now Unlocked, Ryan McCaffrey was talking with Dan Stapleton. And Dan Stapleton and him were discussing how Microsoft could possibly purchase ZeniMax Studios and what that exactly would mean for the brand. And even though I don't have a written topic, I literally am reading this off my phone, which is something I never do. I find it to be so unprofessional because I have a teleprompter and everything that I do these shows from. So I almost feel like a heel. So I had to kind of throw myself under the bus to let you know that I'm reading this from my phone. Oh my God, I should be ashamed of myself because I don't like doing stuff, but it's a bonus topic for a bonus show, because I didn't feel like just ending it the way we did on a down spiral with the a-hole known as Jason Schreier. I kind of wanted to end on an upbeat topic because that's the kind of guy I am. I like being happy. I like being go-lucky. I love unicorns and rainbows and all that kind of fun shit. That's just the way I am. But listen, Zemi, I have to go to you immediately because I know you're going to have a ton to say about this. ZeniMax is a big publisher, and the games I mentioned are absolutely every one of those are bangers. And if somehow or another Microsoft were to, I suppose, financially bully their way into this scenario, again, highly unlikely, but if ZeniMax, I'll put it to this way. This is my theory. If you're Microsoft and you are sitting on market value of $2 trillion, right? And your biggest competitor is Sony, and you are looking to bitch slap them in the next generation, and you have an ideology or an inkling that they could be in the running to purchase to purchase the parent company, and then of course become owners of all of these big IPs. You, as a business person, you have to look at this and say, well, wait a second, we're worth 5 or 10 times worth what Sony's currently worth. We cannot allow this to happen, even if it would cost them. I mean, really put them in the red. You have to make a move. You cannot let Sony attempt to do this unchecked. You have to step in, put on the big boy pants and say, yeah, you don't have enough money. We do. And you have to make this deal because like they did with Minecraft, right? How much money, how many billions with a B that they spend on this? I think it was like 2.3 billion. They've probably made that money. I would dare say that they might have even doubled that money back since buying that. So that was an investment that seriously paid off for them. And listen, you can get Minecraft on a potato. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, Minecraft is everywhere. Now I don't want to speculate for a second that somehow or another that the next Elder Scrolls and the next Fallout would be exclusive to the Microsoft brand, but you can hear the giddiness in my voice to say, if in fact that was the truth, they would sell a hell of a lot more Xboxes and Game Pass would reign supreme. Why don't you take it away and let me know what you think, Zemi?
So first off, let me talk just from the fan approach, from the gamer approach, right? Not an Xbox fan approach, not a PlayStation fan approach, nothing, right? Just a general gamer who wants to look out for other gamers' best interest. I do not want to see Xbox purchase them, and I don't want to see Sony purchase them. I don't want to see Google purchase them, and I definitely don't want to see, Nintendo purchase them. Well, Nintendo probably couldn't even think of affording it, but the point is still there. I don't want to see any of the four major competitors purchase them.
Somebody boo this man. Boo this man immediately.
Because I don't think owning a PlayStation should mean that you can't play Fallout, or you can't play Elder Scrolls, or you can't play Doom, or you can't play Wolfenstein, right? I don't want that to happen.
I see your point. I
don't want that to happen. But at the same point, as someone that does somewhat understand business, Xbox cannot let Sony have Bethesda, right? They cannot let them have, Zeni-Max at all. Do I think it's critically important for Xbox to have them? No. Do I think it's critically important for Xbox to stop PlayStation from having them? Yes. It doesn't matter if Xbox has them or not, because they have Obsidian. Obsidian made what many people still believe today is the best Fallout game. Right?
Yes, I would agree with that. I would absolutely agree with that.
Obsidian is a super talented team that can put out the same the same kind of games that Bethesda can, and typically speaking, they're going to be better quality. They're going to have less glitches and stuff. They're generally speaking like a more accurate developer, right? And from my perspective, from my point of view, of course. So from that point of view, they don't really need Bethesda. But what they definitely don't need is for Sony to have Bethesda. So I mean, if Xbox did in fact purchase Bethesda, what I would want to see is, I would not want to see Elder Scrolls or any of the Zeni-Max IPs to become exclusives. I would hope that Xbox would launch them as third parties. They would make a ton of money off of it. They would make more money off of that than they would by keeping it an exclusive. But then again, they would also guarantee that Sony would not have that in their back pocket, because a lot of people love the Elder Scrolls series, love the Fallout series, and that would sell consoles for PlayStation if they bought it. That would sell consoles for Xbox if they bought it and made it an exclusive. But I don't want to see any of those games become exclusives.
I mean, look, the thing is this, obviously Microsoft is in a position where they are currently sitting on 15 studios. Now, we've talked about this, what I'm about to say, on numerous shows. Our good friend Clobriel, who I'm not even sure if listens to the show, but I'm a big fan of his, and I watch his Twitter. If you're not following Clobriel and you're an Xbox fan, shame on you. Boo yourself. Go to Twitter and follow this man, because even though he doesn't consider himself to be an Xbox insider per se, he is definitely someone that you should pay attention to. And he had said something mid-2019 that made a lot of news. And he claimed his hashtag was 20 in 2020, referring to Microsoft potentially having 20 first-party game studios in 2020. I still think that number is going to happen. We're currently sitting at 15, and I think they're going to add 5 more. Obviously, I'm not sure. I'm sure Dealer is going to either if he hasn't done a video yet, it's going to be coming, I would imagine. There was a tremendous, and I mean outrageous, Reddit leak that came in with Microsoft written all over it. A lot of information. We're not going to cover that today because I have to read through it. I have to check a few sources. I have to bounce this off a few people. Even though it's completely rumor, I want to do a little bit of background research, and I believe it's going to be the main topic of Thursday's Xbox Factor podcast, which is going to go on undisturbed, even though we had the bonus episode today. Welsh Gamer should be back for that. And we are going to have a special guest joining us. I'll be making the announcement this afternoon on who that special guest, in fact, is going to be. So I really want, I mean, there's a lot of information, and that's probably going to take up at least an hour of the show. They dropped some, I mean, some stuff seemed, and Zemi, you saw it yourself. Some of it seemed, pretty legit. Some of the stuff seemed a little, a little fanish, I guess, if you will. But we're going to discuss it nonetheless. And plus, we're going to be talking about compulsion games. We're going to be talking about Undead Labs, two particular developers that no one is really paying any attention to. And I think that after Thursday's show, you might want to be one of these people that change your tune in regards to these smaller first-party developers that are now part of Xbox Game Studios. And we heard, again, if you missed the Iron Lords podcast on Sunday afternoon, you need to get over there and watch that. They had the community manager on from Compulsion Games. It was an incredible interview, and Sheik had confirmed that the next Compulsion game is going to be a third-person game. And as a matter of fact, Zemi, you brought this to my attention, that the game is going to be very similar. It's going to have similarities to Uncharted and BioShock, which sounds unbelievably rad. So we're going to be talking about that rumor, as well as a story that we've been sitting on for Undead Labs for about 3 weeks that we're going to bring up, because I really wanted to talk about those two particular studios that no one is really accounting for. But I want to say this. First of all, as we close in past an hour and 20 minutes of today's special show, we are near 300 people watching live, and I have to thank everybody here. Of course, I have to thank the generosity with the super chats. It is greatly and honestly, tremendously grateful that you take the time to donate any money here. I am going to say that if you're interested in becoming a channel member, you can do that by going to my YouTube page and hitting that join button, and you'll get some really cool emojis that were designed or originally designed by the graphic god. And just to close out, if you don't know who the graphic god is, head over to xboxgamerpicks.com. They are, and Jay is, an official sponsor of the Xbox Factor podcast, and he does incredible, originally designed artwork. And it's not just for your Xbox console where you can make a gamer pick for you. He can do that for you on PC. He can do it for you on Twitter. He can do it for you on your PlayStation 4. But his talent lies in his ability to create, intros and outros for your YouTube channel, banners for your YouTube channel. So if you're interested in any of that, if you are considering starting a new YouTube channel, you want to get into the content creation business and don't know how or where to start regarding original artwork, follow the graphic god on Twitter and hit him up in the DM. He's very friendly. His prices are very reasonable, and he's probably one of the best artists that I know. He does all of the work for the Xbox Factor podcast, Breakfast with Boom, and of course Primetime Gaming. He's responsible for all of that artwork, and I highly recommend his work. But Zemi, listen, this has been a great show. I want to thank you for taking the time on a Tuesday to be here. I'd like you to do me a favor and just tell everyone where they can follow you on Twitter, but more importantly, check out your outstanding YouTube channel.
Well, absolutely. And Boom, thank you so much for, setting up this Tuesday show. It was a blast. And Thursday show, I just by seeing the topics that you sent to me is going to be absolute fire. I mean, I cannot wait to be on that show. But if you guys enjoyed my opinions, definitely check out my YouTube channel. It's called Zemi Games. I do a bunch of gaming videos, gaming news, some theory videos here and there, let's plays, just all sorts of gaming content. So definitely check out my YouTube channel and subscribe if you like the Oh,
Yeah, sorry about that. I hit the wrong button before we ended. Oh my god, technical difficulties.
And then also check out my Twitter if you guys want to. It is at Zimmy Games. My DMs are always open, so feel free to send me a message if you ever want to talk about games or anything like that. And yep, that's it.
Well, listen, real quick. Well, first of all, I love having you a part of the show. It really, in my opinion, has raised the level of quality that we bring to the fans each and every week. I love working with you. I think that you're honest. I like your opinions. I think that you bring a lot to the table. So thank you, of course, for being here. JD Gamer, a very good friend of the show and also a very generous donor to the Double Barrel Gaming YouTube channel, drops an outstanding and very generous $5 super chat. And he asked the question. He says, I will have to rewatch the show, but I just have to know who on the panel believes and hopes that Lockhart is a handheld game machine. That would be me, my friend. I kind of really put myself out there. I said, if you like myself believe that the Lockhart is going to be a different kind of console where it could potentially be the hybrid handheld that I've been touting, you're going to enjoy this show. Again, it's complete speculation, but I think that we're in for something different. I agree with Jez Corden of Windows Central that Lockhart isn't going to be your traditional console, and I think there is a real hidden reason behind Microsoft absolutely refusing to even talk about it publicly, because they have something up their sleeves. Remember, folks, I've been saying this for weeks. This is a different kind of Microsoft. I believe that they are going to be walking and doing things to the beat of their own drum. And of course, if you agree with me, that's great. If you don't, that's even better. But once again, folks, I want to thank everyone for being here. I want to wish you a fantastic Tuesday. The Welsh Gamer, Zemi Games, and myself will be back at this Thursday at noon as the regular scheduled Xbox Factor program. Of course, thank you again for being here. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and we will see you on Thursday's newest episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. Take care, everyone.